perfect way to start Oprah. This is a big week for her. First, she's here at the table with us. Lucky you.
I get to meet John Dickerson, Deanna.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey. And then she's going on Stephen Colbert tonight, but it's a really big week. The highly anticipated new movie, Wrinkle in Time. If you heard about it, it hits theaters nationwide on Friday. We'll talk to her about her role as Mrs. Witch later in the broadcast. And for Sunday's 60 Minutes, Oprah traveled to Milwaukee, that's where she grew up, to learn about a revolutionary approach in the city to childhood trauma. She talked to Dr. Bruce Perry. He's the world's leading expert on early trauma. He's treated survivors of high-profile events like the Columbine shooting. Here's a preview of Oprah's report.
That very same sensitivity that makes you able to learn language just like that as a little infant makes you highly vulnerable to chaos, threat, inconsistency, unpredictability, violence. And so children are much more sensitive to developmental trauma than adults.
So if you're a child who's raised in a nurturing and well cared for environment, you're more likely to have a well-wired brain.
Correct.
And if you're a child who's raised in an environment of chaos, of uncertainty, of violence, of neglect, you are being wired
Differently. And typically in a way that makes you more vulnerable. Kids that grow up like that have much higher rates of risk for mental health problems, much higher rates of risk for doing poorly in school.
For just functioning in the world.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, we are pleased to welcome, listen, she's an actress, philanthropist, media mogul, but she's also a 60-minute special contributor. We like saying that.
I am.
Oprah's back in Studio 57. The reason why I'm so excited about this story is because I know you were excited. You took it to 60 Minutes. You took this idea.
As a matter of fact, when we were doing the critical review of the pieces, because you know you go through the review and you sit with Jeff Faker and Jeff decides whether it's ready or not. And I said to them in the room, that this is the reason why I came to 60 Minutes. I'm always looking for the deeper meaning. This story is so important to me, and I believe to our culture, that if I could dance on the tabletops right now to get people to pay attention to it, I would. It has definitively changed the way I see people in the world, and it has definitively changed the way I will now be operating my school in South Africa and going forward any philanthropic efforts that I'm engaged in, because
it's huge for you to say that, Oprah.
It's huge. Yeah. If I could be a dancing emoji about it, I would, because I think it's that important to our culture.
And it's changed your view from what to what?
Well, what I recognize is that a lot of NGOs, a lot of people who are working in philanthropic world, who are trying to help disadvantaged, challenged people from, backgrounds that have been disenfranchised, are working on the wrong thing. And unless you fix the trauma that has caused people to be the way they are, literally change the way brains operate if you're in a chaotic environment as a child. Unless you fix the trauma, you're working on the wrong thing. So, for instance, you have job programs and training programs and all of that stuff that we've been doing for years, but if you don't fix the hole in the soul, the thing that is where the wounds started, you're working at the wrong thing. So it's changed the way I operate my school. We've now become, as a result of this piece that I did on 60 Minutes, I went back to my board and said, hey, we've been doing it all wrong. We need to be a trauma-informed care institution.
One child welfare agency in Milwaukee said that they even changed their approach to a child instead of what's wrong with you to what happened. I will have
to say, Bianna, that was the life-changing question that my whole senses responded to. See, we go through life and we see kids who are misbehaving, juvenile delinquents, we label them, and really the question that we should be asking is not what's wrong with that child, but what happened to that child, and then having the resources to be able to address what happened to you. The most important question you can ask of anybody, which is what I now say, even for the Parkland shooting. Instead of, what's the matter with that kid? I say, what happened to that child?
But it's a personal story for you. Number one, it's in Milwaukee where you were raised.
Yeah.
You certainly suffered trauma there. You weren't physically abused in your home, but you talked very candidly about this.
I got enough whippings to call it physical. We just didn't call it physical.
Right.
Today it would be. Today I would have to report my mom.
Right. Yeah, today it would be. But you've certainly certainly been very candid about the sexual abuse, and a lot of these kids suffer from PTSD. I marvel, Oprah, that the environment you grew up in, that you don't seem to have suffered from PTSD.
Well, this is
Are you rethinking that about
No, I'm
yourself?
not. No, I definitely do not have PTSD.
Okay.
I definitely. So, and the reason I didn't, because I asked Bruce Perry this question, who's head of the Child Trauma Institute, how come some kids like myself, raised in chaotic environments, turn out to be okay? And it's directly proportional to the relationships. So he was saying, for me, for instance, it was school. I found my refuge in school. I found my place in school from teachers. So everybody needs somebody growing up that says, I believe in you, you're okay, things are going to be all right. And that can be a teacher, that can be a coach, that could be somebody in Sunday school, you know?
And right, somebody who loved you somewhere.
Somebody who loved you somewhere.
Is the key to this building the emotional structure, that resilience and grit that you need? That's what needs to be
But you
rebuilt?
can't build resilience and grit if there's a big hole in your soul.
That's what I mean. Is that what you have to build in those who've gone through
Absolutely.
trauma?
But what happens is you have to see, this is what happened to me. This is why I behave the way I do. This is why I have such a short anger response. This is why I can't concentrate. This is why it's hard for me to keep a job. This is why. And now that I understand it, it's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. Oh, now I know why I behave that way. It's fantastic.
No, I mean, I've never seen you as excited as you were after you taped that piece.
And I've done a lot of stories
I
in
know.
my lifetime, but I think this is the key, and I'm really excited that 60 Minutes was able to do it, and that they allowed me to do it.
This could be a game changer, really. in
I
how
think
you
it could be a
approach-
game changer. I just want people to hear it. I want to, dance on the tabletops. Listen.
Did you have to
Well,
convince
60
60? Did you have to convince?
Well,
her?
at first, Jeff is Jeff is like, well,
He is
I
no
don't know.
joke,
Let
yeah.
me see the story here.
Yeah.
And Rome Hartman, the producer, we came back a couple of times, and when finally Fager said, Mr. Fager said, I think I see a story here. That's how
Okay.
it got done.
Oprah's going to stay around for another segment. We're going to talk about she's promoting 60 Minutes, of course, but she's also going to talk about Wrinkle in Time, and we're going to talk to her about the presidency. We're going to go there.
No, you're not.
Yes, we are. We are going to go there, Oprah. John
gonna-
Dickerson has lots of questions.
We're digging deep.
She's putting it on me.
No.
Yes, I'm putting on John
She
Dickerson.
won't let it go. She won't let it go.
A lot of people won't, Oprah.
She won't let it go.
I'm not the only one.
She won't let it go.